is the beautiful, mesmerising, hypnotic sound of a high-quality mono synth with the right kind of ARPS played through it into some suitable effects, in this case a little bit of ping-pong delay and a little bit of reverb. But really what gives the sound its hypnotic character is the synth itself. And what was it? Well, it was either the Behringer Model D or the Behringer Pro 1, both of which you can see racked up behind me. And this is the second contest video I've made between these two synths, and I must admit I expected the results to be a little bit closer for this kind of treatment. It wasn't close at all. The synths have a very different character, of course, and spoiler alert, it's all because of the filter. So we're going to put both of these synths through their paces. I'll make the MIDI clip available if anyone wants it, but let's just get straight to it and start by listening to the Behringer Model D. All three oscillators are set to saw wave. The first oscillator is 16 foot. The second two are 8 and 4, so an octave up and 2 octaves up. Those are all off and the volume's down, and I'm starting with the volume of oscillator 1 at around 70%. My master volume, as usual, is at 50%, so that if I bring up the resonance, then I can ride the master volume. On the VCA, my sustain is all the way up with some decay in the filter envelope, and the filter's all down. So I'll now start a sequence I recorded live earlier. This is my cheap and cheerful Lexicon multi-effects. I've got a ping-pong delay cascading into a large hall reverb. There's the reverb mix, and there's it without the delay. So the delay is set to a dotted 8. And so that's quite nice. So now let's slowly open the filter. Slowly bring in the filter envelope with the contour. Tiny bit of resonance. There's also a little bit of glide, which you can't really hear at the moment, but you will be able to hear later. Okay, make one more adjustment to the cutoff frequency, and then bring in the kick round about now. These sounds are so beautiful, it's important to let them take root rather than making too many changes. Now, let's ride the resonance but compensate the master volume, and then just tune the cutoff frequency so we can hear the resonance biting. Now let's bring in the second oscillator an octave up. There you go, you can hear it. Just about there. Sounds almost like a shimmer. Slight adjustment to the reverb. The more you have the reverb and the more dark the sound is, the more it gets pushed back. The Model D is particularly good at this effect because the ladder filter is much more like shutting a bedroom door than, say, the Curtis filter on the Pro 1. Okay. Just a slight adjustment to the frequency, riding it up, getting the resonance to bite again. And the delay is thrown around beautifully. Now the third oscillator, another octave up, so now it's really almost sounding like an organ. You can hear the glide as well. Darken it. So now when we bring the resonance back down, we know exactly where to return the master volume to. That's the point of having it on 5. Really sounds like an organ when you just brighten it up into the delays. It's like the delays become throw delays. Just adjusting the oscillator volumes. Change the filter envelope. Now let's push the glide. Now you can really hear those zaps. push into the delays with them. More reverb, darken the sound, and mute the kick drum. So beautiful, just hypnotic. Now let's really open the filter, and you can really hear the glide as well. The second oscillator down to 16 foot to match the first and bring it in. Detune it slightly so it's like a unison saw. Push into that. Now let's bring the third oscillator an octave down to get more weight. Turn the second oscillator down in volume and fade out. Okay, I hope you liked the video so far. This is actually only the second video that I've done for this YouTube channel. It's all incredibly new, and it would help me enormously, and I'd be very grateful if you could consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That will help persuade YouTube that this video might be something that they might consider showing to other people with similar interests. But anyway, I'll be making so many more of these videos. In particular, the focus will not just be on synth contests, but about using analog studio techniques, but applying them to the modern digital age of DAWs. So anyway, I hope you like it. Let's get on and see how the Pro 1 sounds stacked up against the Model D for these hypnotic ARPS. I'm going to use exactly the same MIDI, which I recorded live earlier. This time we've got two oscillators, both set to a sawtooth wave. I'm only mixing in oscillator A. I'm going to set oscillator B to an octave above oscillator A. VCA, sustain all the way open on the filter envelope. A little bit of decay, more decay than you'd have on the Model D because the envelopes are faster on the Pro 1. No resonance, master volume set to 5. Leave keyboard amount there and then slowly open the filter. The delay and reverb settings are exactly the same, but you can already hear that it's a beautiful sound, but it has a very different sweet spot to the Model D. And now let's bring in the kick. Really nice, really hypnotic, but really quite different. Make it a little bit more snappy with the decay. This sounds more like dancing ARPS than hypnotic ARPS. Very plucky. The glide can get really out of control. There's a lot of play with all of these knobs with the Pro 1. Let's now try and increase the resonance, but compensate with the master volume using our usual trick. You always have to tune resonance with the cutoff frequency quite carefully, especially on the Pro 1 or it goes out of control. But the whole reason why the Pro 1 sounds different is because the filter is so different. This is a Curtis filter, 12 dB per octave as a slope, but even that doesn't tell the whole story. The Moog filter is really very special. The ladder filter that Moog uses is famous for very good reasons. Okay, let's bring in the second oscillator, which is an octave above. Nicely detuned. Let's fiddle with that just a little bit. Nice. It's the same MIDI clip. Similar synth architecture, but sounds so different. You'll probably have made up your mind which you prefer in the first 10 seconds. The glide is really nice when you push the glide into the delays and then they bounce around. Okay, take the second oscillator back down a bit, darken the sound, but you can't get that really thick darkness that you get with the Moog. This can go so bright. Look at how much we can kind of push into it. Quite aggressive. Sounds lovely. Does it sound as hypnotic? I'm not sure it does. It's very different. Doesn't have quite the weight. And now we'll fade it out. Well, very, very different sounds. Both beautiful, but don't they sound different? And before I talk about which one I prefer and why, let's talk very quickly about why they sound different. In a previous video where I compared these two synths' ability to make sort of dead mouse style progressive house plucks at 128 BPM, the critical point of difference really was the speed of the envelopes, and in particular the speed of the filter envelope, which is very important if you want to make pluck sounds at that speed. Here, this kind of treatment, not so important at all. What is important is the filter. And I don't just mean how steep the filter is, but the quality and tone of the filter. The Pro one, of course, has the Curtis filter, which is what's called a two-pole filter. So that's a 12 dB drop every octave. I was going to say Moog, shouldn't say Moog, should I? The Model D, the Behringer, maybe the Bogue Model D, has the famous ladder filter, 4-pole, steeper slope. It's not as simple as that. I've got other analog synths with a 4-pole filter, and they don't sound like that. And for what it's worth, I've got other analog synths with a 2-pole filter, and they don't all sound like the Curtis filter. So don't be fooled. It's not just about the filter slope. It's about the quality of the filter and what sound it makes when you push into them. Now, why would a sound be mesmerizing? And I've thought a lot about this. And I kind of feel it might be to do psychoacoustically with the brain thinking that the sound is maybe receding and, sort of bouncing around, getting more distant, closer. That's why during the video I talked about the door closing. It's that famous thing where I think Daft Punk used to talk in this way, which is, what does it sound when your parents are playing disco music and the bedroom door closes? To me, that distant sound is captured much better by the Moog ladder filter than the Curtis filter. And it feels to me like the Moog ladder filter, it sort of sculpts away at the sound. The Pro one sounds lovely, but it almost sounded twinkly, so bright. But these were like dancing arpeggios, which again, don't get me wrong, is a lovely sound. But it didn't have that same sort of compelling, hypnotizing, mesmerizing effect when I was performing it that the Model D did. Maybe you disagree. But while my hands were on the synth, I felt really gripped by the Model D, and with the Pro one, I was crafting a very different kind of sound. Of course, the other thing is that, my word, there's a lot of low end and heft in the Model D. That doesn't matter all the time. If you're making a certain kind of bass that's sitting in the track, you don't always need all the low end. There might be other things which are layers, but when you've got this exposed sound where it's just about the authority and the intensity that it's sort of grabbing your mind with, it's difficult to go wrong with the Model D. It can't do anything. It's quite a limited synth in some respects, but for this, I think it wins hands down. But maybe you disagree. Anyway, for those of you that liked the performance but were maybe a little frustrated because I was doing a voiceover on top of it, I'm going to play the whole of the Model D performance that I did live that you've already seen without the voiceover. And I just want to emphasize, the MIDI, of course, was used on the same synth because I thought it was a more fair comparison, but the MIDI itself was a live take through an arpeggiator, and then it was a completely live performance with no cuts at all. So that is the sound of one analog synth, in this case the Behringer Model D, with one analog drum machine providing a kick, with some analog ducking through one of my gates, and into an outboard effects unit. No door anywhere in sight. Completely mesmerizing. So let's listen to it.